Mhm. Okay, in the analysis of the various maps that you are supposed to do, the tutorials, you are expected to do proportionate symbol maps. Have proportionate symbols maps with circles or triangles. You have diagram maps, in bracket pie charts, or what you call sector diagram. You have equally bar charts. To the example of rainfall maps. Then you have combined graphs. Example, rainfall plus temperature maps. That is a kind of bar graph that shows the temperature represented with lines. And then you have isoline maps. Isoline maps, particularly you can have isoyettes for rainfall. You can have isohells. You can have isotherms, particularly for temperature. You can have contours for relief. Now, in this tutorial, in a more simplistic way, I'm going to present to you how to do proportionate symbols map, bracket, using circles. Now, circles are always used for the representation of information, particularly urban population, because circles can permit a great variation to be portrayed on the map. But now, before you go to your various map designs, you must first of all derive the radius. You must first of all derive the radius of the circle that will be used, and you derive that using the population or the sizes of the urban population per every region as given on the paper here. But now there is a procedure. The formula generally for determine the radius is given as symbol size. It's generally given as maximum symbol size times square root divided by maximum square root. For example, the maximum symbol size, generally in millimeters, is actually a representative proportion of your ruler, where you have all of your tools that are expected. Generally, you will see that when you place your device on your ruler, you found that the best and the most representative radius is 2 centimeters, and 2 centimeters here equals 20 millimeters. So if you place here, you can make a trial where you carry somewhere on your book or whatsoever rough paper, and you estimate to appreciate the area of the circle. And you see that the largest circle is supposed to be represented in this manner. In that light, you can now say, okay, my maximum symbol size could be set at 20 millimeters. Therefore, if I wanted to look for radius of southwest, it will be 20 millimeters times the square root for southwest. The square root for southwest, when you punch on your calculator, you have the square root for southwest to be 7,473 or 7,047.45 divided by maximum square root. The maximum square root here is the square root for the largest population, and on this analysis, the largest population or largest urban population is that of the littoral. Which represent the largest urban population. It therefore means that you get the square root of littoral, and the square root of littoral as obtained here is actually this. So you say divided by 1, 5, 2, 4, 6, 8, and the radius therefore of southwest will be given as obtained here is 10 millimeters. You might have other radius that are having point, like in this situation of center, 0.6 is not bad, 0.1 is not bad, but in situation where you have, say, like in the case of east, where you have 0. Where you had 6.9, you can put it at once at 7, so that you have a good representative proportion. So you do this for all of the other cases there. And now you can now see here that you have all of the symbol sizes to be represented that portrays a kind of variation of the urban population. Now you have your calculations. These calculations are expected to be on your test paper, because we have to know how you arrived at the various circles that you drew. It is not just a kind of an approximation that you don't tell us how you arrived there. Now, all your symbols and your tools are being set for the analysis. The rotring pens, the pencils, and the ruler, and all the other items. The first thing is putting a base map, which you see mine, the map of Cameroon with the various regions. The second is superimposing a tracing paper. That tracing paper, its own role now is to carve out clearly the various regional limits using, first, it is advisable to go first with your pencil, because when drawing circles, you might have circles that overlap the boundaries. And if you did not go first with your pencils, you might have problems, because if you did with the rotring at once, superimposing the circles might have to cut through some of the boundaries, and when it cuts through the boundaries, it becomes an intersection. Whereas if you did not use the rotring, you use a pencil, it is clear that you can lightly erase to make possible that the circle should be able to pass. Now, you can now start lightly with your pencil first, gently, following generally how the shape is, not being in a hurry, and you go like that. You go. You go gently, following all the variations in the shape neatly, not being in a hurry. You carve out the regional limits, or starting with the national limits. You carve clearly on your test item. And you carve on your test item like that. You should avoid touching the lines that you drew with the pencil, because some pencils might have a lot of ink that will dirty your paper. So you go gradually, and then avoid direct contact with the finger on the various lines of the pencil. You go. There we go for the national limits, for the international limits. Now we are tracing the regional boundaries. And you see, we made a distinction between national boundaries and regional boundaries. That is why we asked you people to have two qualities of the rotring pen. One which is of a bigger figure, and the other which is of a smaller figure. In distinguishing your key, you might use the bigger one, say 05 or say 06 or 7, to represent the international borders or limits, while the 02 or 03 might now be used to represent the regional limits, and you would differentiate that on the key. Very important to make or to show some cartographic differentiation in what you have represented.